Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Munciana Courtside, Season 7, Show 7, still rolling, baby, and really, things are starting to slide into a groove, so knock on wood, hopefully, as a state and as a world, and we're moving in the right direction, but Indiana high school volleyball seems to got a little traction, and we don't have this, I think for the first time this year, we don't have to really report on any
teams being on bye weeks.
Lockdowns, no bye weeks. So that's a huge start. So I told you this can get better. But Mike Lingenfelter, Randy Gardner, let's go.
We talked about Thursday, Trinity Lutheran. We've been playing Hauser. We kind of both thought same kind of thing. It was going to be a sweep.
Yeah.
They took care of business.
Hauser lifetime. They're always a legacy program. They've been good for as long as I can remember. And Trinity Lutheran is kind of the upstart over the last several years in 1A, and they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. They may be the best team in 1A.
Yeah. We didn't have it on our list, but Trinity Lutheran did play Center Grove later in the week and this past week and lost in 5 to a Center Grove team, which that's impressive for a 1A school.
1A biting off one of the biggest schools in the state, and that's I like Trinity Lutheran. We'll talk about them a little more.
Monday, we have Ron Colley play Heritage Christian. We wondered how Heritage Christian was going to look, and Ron Colley won in 5.
I like both these teams. I think Ron Colley's team, as we talked about earlier today, is making a late surge. Defensively as good as anybody. Like I said, you can't have that kind of libero play and not be in the hunt with people. And Heritage Christian, has got a pretty prolific offense, well set, a couple of bangers. And, that's another group playing out of their pay grade. It's 2A versus a big school, and Heritage Christian's a real deal. I like both those teams, and I really like Heritage Christians. I've said all year long to be in the finals of 2A.
Yep. Tuesday night, we had Lagodi and Springs Valley play each other. Lagodi ended up beating Springs Valley in 4.
Lagodi is another one of those legacy programs. Been around forever and always had good volleyball. And Springs Valley, they've had several good runs in the last couple of years, and so that's a good win. Some really good people involved in that too. A couple of really good coaches.
Yep. Last night also we had the Mud Sock.
Yes.
And HSC won it in 4 over Fishers.
Well, people were excited. They said you were there in a blue shirt.
This was what I was wearing at work. It wasn't like I went home and changed for HSC or anything like that.
But HSC beats a good Fishers team in 4. A fairly competitive match. Scores 18-19s, and then the one set was 23-25-ish. HSE probably just a little cleaner than Fishers, but we'll talk a little later about your thoughts. But when we get into the rankings, we'll kind of I'll ask you your thoughts on Fishers and HSE since you saw them in person. But good win for HSE, one of the first real tests this season.
Yeah. Then we'll kind of get into the next part. We're going to get into the games.
You got some good ones.
And games of the week, we got Saturday, we got McCutcheon and Munster.
And McCutcheon plays a tough schedule. They missed a great piece of their schedule because of COVID. But every single match they played has been against one of the teams in our top 10, it seems like.
They played Avon last week.
No, they play everybody. They backed off no one. And that's why I still like that team. They're battle ready. And Munster is part of that four-headed monster out of the north, and they're playing great volleyball. Munster is just annihilating people. That'll be fun. Chacon, anytime you see Chacon play against anybody, it's good volleyball. And Chacon against Munster, it should be fun. I'm anxious to watch as Shondell and that crew continue to season. But that'll be a great matchup for them.
Next Tuesday, I got a bunch of games. There's a few down there. Brownsburg, Ron Colley. Brownsburg's had some really big time wins, and then they just have hiccups where they lose to a Silver Creek team. Not that Silver Creek's bad, but they're not, a top 10 team.
No, the Ohio Players, which I don't expect you to remember, the Ohio Players had a song a million years ago called Roller Coaster. And that's Brownsburg. This should come out. That should be their walk-off music. They should come out to Love Roller Coaster blaring in the background. Just the funk alone would get them going. Maybe that would get them consistent. That team is so up and down, it's unreal. Anybody named Fishers, they're winning. Yeah. But they've got the ability to beat anybody, got the ability to lose to anybody. And Roncalli is a team that's starting to steady out. Roncalli could be a troublemaker late in the season. They remind me a lot of that old Chittard team with Larry Linhart a couple of years ago that was average all year long, and then they just peaked.
Yep.
And Roncalli is a dangerous team.
Yep. Then we got a couple other games. The reason why I threw this one down here, normally, you wouldn't think this would be possibly a good game, just because HSE usually really dominant year in, year out. Greenfield Central. Greenfield Central's went 5 with Newcastle. They've went 5 with Yorktown. And they've had a lot of good matches.
No, Greenfield Central is obviously, I think if I had to pick 3 surprise teams this year, Greenfield Central's one. Mm-hmm. Maybe the most surprising team in Indiana. In HSE, I've said all year long, the bullseye on their backside is they've got to keep their egos in check. And as Sarah Roush said when we called her a couple of weeks ago, what do you have to do when you're the favorite? And her answer was just don't read the news.
Yeah.
Don't read the news clippings. HSE, that's a kind of a trap game for them. They better be careful because Greenfield Central could knock them down.
Yep. Another game is Tuesday nights. We've been talking about it a little bit. Yorktown Fishers.
Yeah, battle of the opposites.
100% the opposite.
Yorktown is very, very efficient. Fishers is very aggressive, but aggressive without control is a disaster. They make too many errors, and they're going to have to really, really reel in their errors to even make that a 4-set match. If they go in there and continue their error-prone ways, they'll go home in 3. They'll leave the gym in 3 fast. Mm. So but Fishers is capable of beating Yorktown if they play clean.
Correct.
But that's Peak's chore is to find out how to make that happen.
Very true. Very true.
Those are all good games.
Yeah.
Nice job this week.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. And it's easy to pick when you got a lot of good matches to go and look. Okay. There's 15 other games that were really good matches that could have been.
From a ratings standpoint, I'd really like to see the McCutcheon-Munster match. Yeah. I really want to see the North guys. They just really captured my attention. That'll be a good matchup. And then, like I said, HSE Greenfield Central, don't sleep on that.
Yeah,
those guys are dangerous.
And that's the one thing that does suck about times right now is it's very hard to just get up and go. Normally you go, we could go up to Munster and watch a game if we wanted to, make an evening out of it or whatever. But like last night, I go to the Mudsock game, and right as you walk up, 46 signs on things sold out unless you have a ticket.
Yeah.
And that just sucks knowing that. All right, go ahead and get into our next part. Oh my God, what happened there? Where's our mouse?
Next part
Hold on.
is the Raymond James. Who's flying high? Who needs techniques?
There we go. I don't know.
You're moving. I'm not.
All right. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get into it. The Raymond James flying high, sectional 9. We can still see it, just got a delay for us.
All right. Who's flying high? Sectional 9 is, we talked about this earlier as well, is by far the most brutal sectional in the state. Yes. Regional gets really interesting for the guys in the north, and regional gets interesting for some others. HSE sectional has Fishers.
Yeah.
But you look at this sectional, and Newcastle, defending state champions multiple times, Yorktown, state champions on multiple occasions. Greenfield, probably one of the 3 most underrated teams in the state.
Yep.
Mount Vernon could be in that same category as most underrated teams in the state. And Pendleton Heights, I believe, took Greenfield 5 earlier this week. And so, that could be a war. When you understand that Greenfield's taken both Newcastle and Yorktown 5, Pendleton Heights is taking Greenfield 5.
Yep.
And all those guys still have to play Mount Vernon.
Yep.
And Mount Vernon is very, very good. That is a great sectional, by far the best sectional in the state.
Yeah, no doubt. Then I wanted to throw out another thing to you. Who's flying high? Give me some big school teams that are looking good. So 3A, 4A, we'll go that route.
Well, I think that Munster's flying high.
Mm-hmm.
What are they, 24-2 now?
Yeah.
Munster's flying high. They're playing great volleyball. HSE.
Yeah.
Yorktown. Those are easy. 15-0, 16-0. They're easy calls, but those guys are all flying high. I think Dwinger in 3A is still flying high. Got their wings clipped a little recently, but
it beat a good Belmont team as well.
Yeah, a very good Belmont team.
I mean, it was top of 3A by the rankings or whatever.
Yeah, but Dwinger's better than those guys.
Yep.
But still, that's a good win. Anytime you go in and beat a team of that magnitude, that's a good win. I like those teams, that are flying high. I talked earlier, Greenfield Central's a team that's lost a lot of 5-game matches, but they're never that good. And so I got to say, those guys, it's just such a good year for that. There's so much parity after number 2.
Yep.
Your number 1 and your number 2 are pretty much locked and loaded. But after that, anybody could beat anybody. It's fun. I think the sectional, regional, semi-state are going to be very entertaining. I think the state is going to be, it's kind of predictable in a lot of ways. I feel good about my prediction in 2A. I feel like I'm closing in on a prediction of 1A. I got half of 3A, and I think I got all of 4A.
Yeah.
So.
Going to go the opposite way now. So little guys, we'll talk 1A, talking 2A.
Well, yeah.
Who are some people that you see flying high in that one?
I love Heritage Christian. I think they're very well set. I think that Colvin is a really, it's hard to say that she's a secret, but she is, and she plays in the shadows of a lot of the big schools, but she plays high. Very gifted player. They got two solid pins. Snyder is as complete a setter as there is in 2A. I love that team. I think they're flying high. Wapahani is flying high. They've got wins, but they haven't got the schedule.
Correct.
You look at Heritage Christian. Heritage Christian's starting to bite off people. Heritage Christian's, battling against Roncalli and battling against Greenfield Central. They're playing some big boys, and they're getting prepared for the matchup. I think that, those two teams, Andrian is starting to bite off some big teams. I like them. I think they're very solid. Those would be my 3 there. 1As, I love Trinity Lutheran. I think that right now they may be the pride of 1A. Cowan is the champion until they get beat. Cowan won the 1A shootout. Now, the 1A shootout's a little different this year because of COVID. LCC has to cancel at the last second. And LCC's always in the hunt.
Correct.
I like a lot of those teams. I like Pioneer. There's a lot of really good teams at the lower level playing really good volleyball. And so 1A, 2A is as healthy as it's ever been.
I agree. I just want to throw this out there. Who's flying high? Interesting thing. Who has the longest winning streak currently?
I did not know this. Yeah. My guess was, Yorktown or HSE, and they were at 15 and 16 respectively. Yep. But you told me
it is Munster. They've now won 18 straight.
That's the longest win streak in the state of Indiana.
We had a couple at 16, a couple at 15, but they are leading the way at 18.
There you go.
Josh, we got any questions?
Got 2 questions, a couple rollovers from last week.
Gotcha.
Going off of what you were talking about, a ticket earlier, one of the questions JR asked last week is, should the IHSA done a better job of live streaming these matches and making them available than what they have? Or is that more on the school, or
that's a great question. I mean, JR would pick out a technology thing. I believe that it's a school thing. And some schools are really good at it. Wapahani is really, really good at Brandon Marvilius. And I think if you have a school that's not good at it, he would be the guy to talk to, because he does a beautiful job of live streaming. But JR brings up a huge point. I mean, live streaming is going to be huge. Live streaming is going to be huge in the club season.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big deal. And so I don't think it's an IHSAA issue. even though the sectionals, it brings up a great question. In the sectionals and in the regional semi-state, that could be something that needs to be addressed, and maybe we'll get a hold of somebody that's going to let us know how that's going to go down. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
I believe it's on the schools at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple of things I think would be kind of cool. Is like if maybe the IHSA put like some links for stuff like the Wapahani little network they have going for it.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
And the good news is, though, I think, is you got a lot of people that are live streaming on their phones, on Facebook, on
Periscope,
everything. Yeah. So you do have that possibility, but you got to know somebody at that school. Like I don't know anybody at Munster to go, hey, what's your live stream? So it would be good to see those across the board, so we could see, good matches in the state, because as good as anybody, Josh, that heading down to Seymour for semi-state. You don't want to go down there 2.5 hours and not have a ticket. So that would suck to not be able to get in. Anything else?
Next question comes in from the old Hughes residence. Kent wanted to know you guys' thoughts on what you would take away if you were a coach now from this COVID era or year and still use it in the upcoming seasons and moving forward.
One game at a time. I think that all too many people get caught up looking at their schedule. And there's some coaches that will look at their schedule and already have mapped out their wins and losses for the season during preseason. I think one game at a time. And I've always been a firm believer in this. No matter how good or bad you were last night, next game. And I think COVID's taught us to appreciate each game as an individual entity, because the season is no guarantees. And I think that everybody's kind of gotten into that small, like it's, instead of playing one 25-game season, most people are playing 25 one-game seasons because of the uncertainty and whatnot. I think it's created a little more gratitude and a little more focus on each individual game. But I think great coaches, they don't look in the rearview mirror much. They will make adjustments based on what happened behind them, but they move looking forward. I think one game at a time is the greatest thing that came out of COVID.
Yep. Another thing I would say is have a backup plan. So, I mean, you never know who's going to be there night in, night out. You could have, your starting setter. You might have that kid out for the next night. You might have, a third middle. Yes, you have those situations where maybe you have a backup and line ready to go, but you might need 2 or 3 backups.
Well, a backup plan, with the IHSAA right now, the only adjustment still has been the unlimited roster for the state championship.
That helps.
Which tells you that, now, your backup plan may be somebody's freshman team playing somebody's JV team in the state championship. I mean, that's true. And so, who knows? Who knows, man? Who knows?
All right, we're going to go ahead and get into...
Good questions. Really good questions.
We're going to go ahead and get into top players to watch.
Yep.
This time, I threw a little bit of everything. We got a couple juniors, we got a couple seniors, and a sophomore.
Yeah.
A couple kids that are committed, or a few of them, and then a couple uncommitted.
Well, I'm digging it because you got a lot of DSs in there this week. I always like when you love on those guys. First up, Sarah Morton, DS at Munster. Junior heading to Auburn, part of that machine.
Yep.
Keep that in mind that this is the third Munster player that's come up on our watch list. And, I don't know if you guys are aware, that only 6 can play.
Yeah.
And so if 3 of those kids on the court are D1 athletes, that tells you these guys are dangerous.
Won 18 straight.
Yeah, and they've won 18 straight games, and they may be the hottest team in the state. And so Sarah Morton's one of the reasons for that.
Yep, 50 aces, 357 digs, 75 assists last year. And she's a junior, so she's coming back.
Yep.
Next on the list?
Emma McMahon. This kid's a great kid. Fiery, driven, great energy. A DS at Belmont. Plays perfect for Craig Kroll.
Yep.
Same kind of passionate approach to the game as he has. Kid's uncommitted, and a lot of that's because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't nail things down before the pandemic hit. But Emma McMahon will play in college. Emma McMahon will not pay for a whole lot of college. Emma McMahon's going to be a star, but she's one of the best DSs in the state, and definitely one of the best junior DSs in the state.
Yeah, and like you said, junior, 52 aces, 255 digs. She's already at 250 right now for this season.
Wow.
21 assists. Another thing is, like you just talked about, these kids that are uncommitted also didn't even have a chance to sign until the very end of the club season this year, which was in a frenzy at that point. Next on the list, got a big guy.
Grace Bogus, big middle blocker, big kid out of Center Grove. Been on the radar for several years. Committed to Butler really early, and we'll do a good job there. She's a kid that can play right side middle in the college game. Big and physical, and really would have much bulkier stats this year if they had a little more seasoned setting. They got young kids in there. MJ Hamill left, and that's a void, and that's hard to make up in a high school game. But Grace Bogus is one of the reasons that Center Grove team's still really a solid threat.
Yep, 233 kills as a junior, 122 blocks.
Yeah,
and 23 digs.
She's imposing. She's a big kid.
Yeah.
Bella Daringer would be my next setter out of Delta High School. Great little ball player, just committed to Murray State. Really athletic kid, a kid that up until the last couple years was kind of a dual sport kid, and really kind of made her commitment towards volleyball and has really exploded. Maybe one of the most athletic setters in the state. Still got to hone in on her skills, her connection skills, and her accuracy skills. But this kid has got an unlimited ceiling. She's very, very gifted, fiery competitor, and I'm excited that she found a home.
Yes,
senior needs to.
Like you said, last year stats were really good because she was doing a little bit of everything. She was setting, she was hitting, passing. 87 kills, 31 aces, 43 blocks, 188 digs, and 566 assists.
Yeah.
Last on, a little DS.
Ramsey Gary. Ramsey Gary's sister, Quincy Gary, was the bro at Alabama for 4 years. Ramsey's, a gym rat.
Yeah.
She's really anchors a much improved Pendleton Heights team. Blair Barksdale's team is only improved every year that she's been there. And, regrettably, they're part of that Section 09 massacre where they're going to have to really go through a gauntlet to get home. But if they do get through, Ramsey Gary is going to be one of the reasons, probably one of the most gifted ball handlers in the state, and developing much better range as she gets bigger and stronger. She's going to be really a force to contend with as a sophomore, uncommitted still, but getting a lot of looks.
Yeah, and last year she was just mostly a DS for those guys and an older senior. Libero, so her stats are a little less, 40 aces, 212 digs, and 37 assists. I think she's already surpassed that or real close to it. So she'll take off.
No, she's gonna be a great player.
Joshua, any more questions?
Question by me.
Ooh.
What in you guys' opinion, what do you think is gonna be the most important position or most impactful position come the state tournament?
Usually I would say setter. Every year I would say setter. This year I'm gonna say the first ball contact guys. We've seen so much all year long that everybody's struggled passing-wise. I think that probably ball handlers, I won't just specifically say bros, but I will say first ball contact guys. Yeah. And I think that early on I said I thought it was because the passing is a rhythm thing and there's so much uncertainty and dishevelment in the season that was the reason. But the other thing you got to keep in mind, and I am a firm believer that high school coaches in high school game make kids better for the club game. Club coaches in club game make kids better for the high school game. It's an endless cycle, and it's a beautiful cycle. And what happened last year was that our part of the deal as club guys was cut short. So you've got a whole group of kids that really only had half of a season of club training. And I think you're seeing a little of that with the inconsistencies in ball handling. But so far, whenever great teams have lost, it's been ball control, and that's been the big issue.
And I would second that. And the only thing I would add to that is another first ball contact serve.
Yeah.
Last night it felt like somebody gets a run going and they fly back to the service line and hit a small kid walking by with nachos.
This is the HSE
and
Fishers game.
And I think take your time back there. You have to have a little bit of rush. You have to be a little bit nervous in that situation because you haven't had as many reps as you normally do. And those were the two things I saw: serving, passing, get you home, or doesn't get you home.
No, I agree.
We're going to go ahead and get our last phone zone here. Got the old got a phone.
Hello?
Well, hello. How are you doing,
Hi.
Melissa Paul?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, your husband just looked at me like I shocked him.
I was told it was going to be somebody else.
We got Melissa Paul Gardner on the phone. Randy's fortunate enough to be married to her, but we wanted to ask her a couple questions since we were talking about 1A and small guys this week. I wanted to get some feedback from her. She has not been on the bench for a little bit. Just had a little guy a couple of weeks ago, and so she's been making sure she tends to that, but we'll ultimately get back on the bench before this thing is over. Give us a little rundown on Cowan Volleyball. I said tonight they're the best team in 1A until someone beats them at the end of the season. You know, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you have to do to return to the state championship?
Obviously, our strengths are Gracie Conway, J.C. Harrington, and McClark. Our weaknesses right now is our passing. We can't control the ball right now, so we've got to really buckle down. And I think with Riley Mason in the back row, once she gets a voice, even though we're already almost halfway through the season, once she figures that voice out, I think we'll really be smooth in ball control and serve receive. But once we figure that out, I mean, you know, we've just got to keep giving the ball to our stronger hitters and be able to defend. But right now, that's our weakest link, I think, personally.
You know, last year was kind of a Cinderella season for you, and coming in
Yes.
and being coach of the year and winning the state title. You know, I know that had to be an insane thrill, but having a baby or winning a state championship.
Oh gosh. Definitely having the baby. I've told many people when they've asked how it is, this is probably the best job in the world. I would not trade it for anything. I'd give up coaching. I'd give up my special education job. I'd give up everything to be a mom. It's the best. I mean, winning state was amazing, especially my first year, and you know, with all the support Cowan gave me. But you know, he's laying on my chest right now, and I just can't put him down. The cuddles are amazing.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. More chaotic, COVID or labor?
Oh God. For me, COVID.
Okay.
Labor was very easy for me.
All right.
The COVID with coaching has been insane. It's kind of like Randy said earlier tonight. You just never know who you're going to have. You have to have a backup plan. There's a couple of times where I had two seniors out for almost 4 weeks, and you know, playing freshmen and having them being stressed and not sleeping the night before because they're just so nervous. You know, you just never know who you're gonna get the next day, and you don't know who your lineup's gonna be, and it's a day by day process. Labor for me, I was only in labor for about an hour and a half, so it wasn't hard.
That's awesome. What with this group? What's the perfect finish for this group? Because you mentioned a couple of those kids, and they were with you last year. You know, I know they all want to repeat. You know, the perfect finish for these guys. You know, winning a state title again, winning it in straight sets. What is it? How do you top last year?
I mean, obviously, winning in straight sets is just a dream come true. And I mean, they think that they know that they can do it. So right now, I think for them, it's just having the mindset and the drive to do it, because I think we're falling off a little bit because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So the perfect season, obviously, is to have straight sets and win state and kind of find that willpower, because right now and given I'm not there, and Crystal Garrett's doing a great job, but I'm ready to get back in the gym and get them fired up and let them know that they can do it. So, I mean, obviously winning state is going to be the highlight of their senior year, and that's what I want to give them.
That's awesome. Well, the last question for you. Who's the biggest threat to you guys?
In 1A? Or?
Yeah, in 1A.
In 1A. Well, you can ask Randy, every match is my biggest threat. I sit at the phone.
That's a good answer.
I was about to say, I'm nursing Trace watching games that they're playing, and I'm just yelling because every team, they don't understand. I mean, they're high schoolers. Every team is a threat. So as of right now, our sectionals, all of our sectionals, is a threat to me. And then we'll get to regionals when it gets there. Blue River's been tough. I mean, they took us to 3 sets at Class A. So, I mean, they're going to be a threat. Westdale's taken us to 5 and 3. So they're obviously a threat in sectional. But, I mean, obviously my eye is always on Trinity Lutheran just because of the history that I had with them from last year. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they're amazing. They're a great team. So
they are a good team.
Just all of 1A, honestly. I don't bypass anybody.
Spectacular answer. Spectacular answer. In fact, I loved all of your answers. You did good. You did good. One side note, I was out walking this evening and I ran into a wonderful, a beautiful lady who asked me if I knew MP and shared a lot of wonderful things about a young lady that she's very proud of. I believe that her name was Beth, and I believe that you spent the last couple of years working with her. She's my neighbor.
Yes.
I didn't realize this.
I never would think that you guys would run into each other. Yes, yep. She is my pride and joy. I love that woman to death.
Well, she loves you.
Now I'm going to have to call her and talk to her.
Well, you take care, sweetie, and your husband will be home in a minute. But thank you very much for your time, Melissa.
Well, thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Caught you off guard there, didn't I, dude?
Yeah. All right. Going to go ahead and get into the rankings. Talk about a few honorable mentions. Mm-hmm. It's fluctuated a little bit last few weeks.
Yeah. I got Avon up there at 16-5. You know, we didn't realize until this week that Scott McQueen is back in the saddle. You know, you talk about a warrior. That dude's been around forever and been in it and out it. And I guess he told him no, he wouldn't come back a couple of times this year and ended up getting back in it. And, you know, per my conversation with him today, he said he's having a blast. Yeah. You know, and, you know, they're 16-5 and they always play a big schedule. And, you know, as long as they got Abby Mesh on the outside, they're always going to be a threat.
Yep.
You know, the kid can fly and, you know, head into the SEC. So she's going to be, you know, somebody to deal with come sectional time. And Scott McQueen knows how to win. I mean, he's won state championships. He's very gifted. And so they're an honorable mention.
Yeah, another thing you just said, which look at the 4 teams they played this past week: New Albany, Roncalli, McCutcheon, and Fishers.
Yeah.
And that's.
And they beat a good McCutcheon team. That, you know, that's what I talked about McCutcheon is. Anybody that's beat McCutcheon is on our list.
Yep.
You know, and McCutcheon, I still believe, is a year away. I think they're going to be really, really, really a bear to deal with next year.
Yep.
But, you know, at the end of the season, we're closer to next season than we are this season. And McCutcheon's still in the hunt. They're my other honorable mention team. They're, you know, you're looking, you're going 10-6 for dear. You know, they've lost 6 meaningful matches. The people they're supposed to beat, they've beaten. And I like this team. They're seasoned, and it's going to be a good finish for them. They lost to a great Crown Point team and an Avon team that I just referenced.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, number 10.
Penn, 24-4. They only lost this week to HSE. No shame there. Penn is very good. Like I referenced, right now 1 and 2. There's a dip between them and everybody else. A little valley there, but Penn is in that other valley, and Penn is capable of beating anybody in front of them, other than probably Yorktown and HSE at this point.
Yep. You
know, as gifted a team as there is, and part of that four-headed monster out of the north.
No doubt. Number 9.
Fishers. You know, it's still, you know, a tough mud sock loss in 4. They still see each other in the sectionals, and the one that matters is sectionals.
Yep.
You know, as long as you win your last battle with your rival, that's the one that matters. And so I'm sure that those guys picked up something out off the game. They learned a little something about themselves and a little something about HSE. They took a set, which is big.
It's a good sign.
It's confidence, and so they know what they got to do. You know, 15-5, they're still loaded athletically. Still got to fix the ball handling. Still got to fix the high air and impact. You know, the high school game is all about errors. Taking care of the ball, take care of business. Make that many errors, it's going to be tough beating anybody.
Yep. All right, number 8.
Providence, hanging steady, 16-6. Beat a good North Oldham team out of Kentucky. You know, they're hanging there. They're waiting. You know, as Horning gets healthy, and and that team gains a little experience in certain spots, they're going to be a threat come tournament time. You never count them out. They're one of those teams that you watch, but right now their ball handling is their Achilles heel, and they got to figure it out. But until they get it figured out, they're going to set at 8.
Yep, and then at that point they'll be waiting in the tall grass. Whoever gets out of that second home with Yorktown and everything else.
Just dangerous.
All right, number 7.
Crown Point.
Everybody's played 20 matches, no one's.
I know. Penn 24-4, Crown Point 23-3, Munster 23-2, LaPorte 23-2. The only teams in our top 10 with 20 games, more than 20 games. It's ridiculous, but it's bodes well for them. And Crown Point is, I've always said on this show, Duncan is as good a coach as there is in the state. It's a team with state tournament experience. It's a team that has always been in the hunt, but they're athletic and they're just a team that's got to. I think they've got to spend a little bit time playing some of these juggernauts of the HSEs, the Yorktowns, just so they can get acquainted to the speed.
Yep.
I think the size, I think the volleyball acumen is right where it needs to be. This Crown Point team is starting to rise at the right time, and they're dangerous, and they're very good. But you add dangerous with well coached, and that's a neat scenario for them.
All right, number 6.
Dwenger lost to LaPorte. That's it. Lost to LaPorte. Beat Belmont, as we spoke of, and Belmont is really the big dog in 3A. When you're up in that area in particular, Belmont and Concordia have dominated it. Dwenger's always been right on the edge, but Dwenger's putting together a special year. I like this team, and this team gave Newcastle all they wanted, a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're going to give a lot of people all they want. So they're at 6, and they're poised to move up.
Yep. Number 5.
LaPorte. Yeah, LaPorte. Takes down a couple of good teams this week, including Dwenger. At 23-2, those guys are doing what it takes to be a top 5, top 4 team in the state. Very good, very gifted team. And like I said, I'd really love to see these teams out of North play. The style of play may not match up real well with HSE Yorktown yet, but I hope they get a chance to play some really fast type teams so that they can get ready for it. Because if they do, watch out. They're going to have the seasoning it takes to win this thing.
They're number 5, only really behind number 4 because they lost to them early in the year.
Munster.
Yeah.
Munster at 24-2, I think it is. 23-2
yeah,
is what we have. 24-2 on the season. That team is. You said 18 consecutive wins. We've talked about how many stars they have on that team. That whoever gets out of that end is going to be dangerous. I like all of those teams. Yeah. First time we've ever had that many teams from the North in the top 10.
Yeah. Especially in top 5.
And that's the most top 5 teams. And I could argue that I could move Crown Point higher. I could argue that I could move Penn higher.
Yeah.
And like I said, the top 2 have separated from the pack right now, but the rest of them, I can move them all.
Yep. All right, number 3.
Newcastle. Came off a great weekend the week before with.
We thought we were going to have maybe a bye week.
Yeah.
They didn't. Yeah. They ended up being all right.
Yeah. They had a scare. They had a scare, and got a match in against Chittard, and they're 13-4, and still trying to figure out ball handling. Yeah. If they can figure out ball handling. We've talked about them offensively. They can go to Pound Town with anybody.
Yep,
they're good.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, I still have Yorktown. You may differ on this. After last night, you had obvious opinions about this. Yorktown beat a Greenfield Central team in 5, and that surprised a lot of folks. But Greenfield Central surprised a lot of folks. Yep. They took down Cathedral, Concordia, Carroll, New Pal. They're starting to get into a groove. And do what they do. They're 16-0. The big issue with them is going to go back to, other than Newcastle has been their only test. They hammered Wapahani in what would have been, a 4A, 2A matchup.
Yeah.
Wapahani and Yorktown do play on Thursday night in the Delaware County tournament, which would give them a little bit of a push. But, really Yorktown it'll be interesting if they still have Mount Vernon on the schedule and who's left to give them a little bit more savvy going into the tournament. But this team is very good. You believe?
I believe they will. I mean, after watching last night's game,
You've seen both.
HSE is a very good team. Mills controls the back row pretty well. They got solid middles, left sides. Got to get a little more aggressive. Too many cross court balls. No production on the right side because you got setters up, so you're splitting the pin a lot. But decently quick in transition, but almost just shy of a school crossing zone. That's all I got to say, because Yorktown is light years faster in transition than HSE.
Wow.
Now, I will say this. I'm not saying they got the guns.
Do you even know what a light year is?
No.
I just love the fact you use light years.
All I'm saying is Yorktown is not going to score offensively, but I think they're going to win games because they're just going to let people make mistakes.
Will Hamilton Southeastern make that many mistakes?
They made a ton last night.
All right.
And Fishers could have won last night. All those sets were right around 20. You have a couple balls go the opposite way. And
does HSE even get out of sectional? The way you're talking.
HSE should get out of the sectional. Should. Okay. Nothing's a guarantee.
Wow.
Other than Yorktown's winning a state championship.
Do you agree with that Yorktown's two in this?
Yorktown is number one, and it is a distant one.
Wow.
Distant.
My number one for tonight and still for the entire season is HSE. I've got to see people up. I got to see them in person. I see tape. I got to see people in person. The clientele, the people on his team. You said that Hardin is readable at this point. Hardin's got a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Hardin's got a lot to learn. If Hardin becomes a student of the game, Hardin could become one of the best teachers this state has ever seen in this sport. Hardin could be very, very good. Both pins could have that kind of impact. I think the middles, have got to get a little bit more creative in the middle of the court. They tend to run a lot of slides out of, offensively. But I think that they've got to be quicker into the middle of the court and be able to attack zone one with regularity to try to force a Yorktown-esque type team into out of system. Mills is a very competent player. It seems like she's got a supporting cast. With that said, neither of those teams have had the test they need yet. I believe that HSE has had a stronger schedule to date than Yorktown. And so their 15 wins seem to carry more weight with me. And so at this point,
and they do. On prep volleyball, they're still the number one ranked team because of that and everything else. I get it. And I understand your speed comment. My hope is that we get to see them both at full strength I hope so,
at some point this season. But my number one team for the 7th straight week is Hamilton Southeastern. And, we'll see. I hope we get a chance to see your predictions come to – your predictions have been really good.
But that will be – I think that will be your state championship.
Will you be wearing a blue shirt that day?
I'll probably be wearing a Munciana shirt.
There you go. Blue.
And it was blue.
There you go. Well, with that, folks, let's keep kicking COVID in the ass, and let's keep moving this season on. I think good things are coming, baby. I think good things are coming. The volleyball's starting to get hot. Yeah. This weather's getting cool, and the volleyball's getting hot.
October, best month.
Perfect time, baby. Perfect time. We'll see you next